Welcome to the Wellness Revolution Podcast, the radio show all about wellness in your mind, body, spirit, personal growth, sex, and relationships. Stay tuned for weekly interviews featuring guests that have achieved physical, mental, and spiritual health in their lives. If you'd like to have access to our entire back catalog, visit drveronica.com for instant access. And here is your host, Dr. Veronica.
This is Dr. Veronica. We're talking about all matters of health, life, your world, with interesting guests and my co-host, Russell, who is there. Russell, are you still with us?
I'm still with you.
Wonderful. So we're going to jump right into our next guest, Dr. Nancy Irwin. Now, Dr. Nancy Irwin, you guys might have seen her on TV. I think she's been on Dr. Drew and several other shows. Of course, she's been on lots of radio shows. She's been on my show before, and she's a fascinating guest. I don't even know where to start with giving you her background. She's a PhD, a therapeutic hypnotist, doctor of psychology. She does neuro linguistic programming, timeline therapy, emotional free therapy, and she specializes in something that's like a sticky subject, but is so prevalent. I know from being in traditional medicine, and you guys may know out there, she helps people who are victims of sexual abuse, and she helps the victims, but she also helps the abusers, because you guys know that this is something that goes on and on and on. And usually somebody who's abusing has been abused, and there's just all kinds of issues there. And so that's kind of the unsexy work she does that has to do with sex, but it's well out there needed. But that's not what we're going to talk about today, because that's just a little depressing. I can feel my energy going down just talking about that. And we'll do some other shows about that, because that's just a subject that hits everybody of all socioeconomics. But today we're going to talk more about hypnotherapy. It's the early part of the year. On the radio, we're hearing a lot about people saying hypnotherapy for weight loss. And I hear particular seminars, advertising to come in 2 hours, lose all the weight, guaranteed. And so I thought I would bring on Dr. Irwin, because I want to find out what can hypnotherapy do and what it cannot do. Because I'm just saying, you can go to a hypnosis session and all of a sudden you're going to go to a hypnosis session and you're going to lose 100 pounds eating Big Macs still. I mean, is this really how it works? I would like to know more about that. This is why we do Wellness for the Real World. I hear Dr. Irwin over there laughing. Dr. Nancy Irwin, drNancyIrwin.com, IRWIN. Welcome to Wellness for the Real World.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Veronica. It's a pleasure to be back.
What are you chuckling over there about first?
Well, I'd like somebody to sue, for false advertising. Whoever's claiming you can walk in and poof, in 2 hours, you lose, you can't even lose 10 pounds a month. You can't even lose 2 unless you sweat it off out of nerves or something. No, it's not hypno-magic. It is therapy. It is a process, and the client is actively involved just as the therapist is. So in the first session, presumably, you draw up a treatment plan. You get very clear on someone's history. For example, how long they've suffered with weight management, what they've tried, what has worked, what hasn't worked. But most importantly, it's shifting the underlying beliefs about the process and the body image. If you believe that you're hopelessly overweight and there's nothing that can be done about it, then you're right. Nothing's going to move, because there is nothing more powerful than human thought. Look at the placebo effect. Look at the nocebo effect, which is just the opposite. So when people are plugged into something absolutely not working for them, that's the nocebo effect, and you know what? They're right. So what we do is we shift the unconscious beliefs to one that you can affect this positive change with the proper protocol, which is eating healthy food and exercise. Shocking. It's simple in theory, not easy to affect, of course, but it is a process, and that's the only way you can shift your body. You do have to burn up what you eat, and you have to burn up more than you eat to lose weight. It's simple mathematics.
Yes.
But what hypnosis can do is change your attitude about it. So you're not resenting it and rolling your eyes and thinking, oh, let me just take a diet pill or go to a doctor and get, those things don't work. There are billions of dollars in the industry. Yet can you think of one that really works consistently? No, of course not. There's one way, and that's to commit to a plan that's a balance of proper nutrition and exercise, underscored and upheld by your proper attitude about it, where you can make it a game, where it's exciting, knowing you're going to win. It is simple mathematics. You can't not lose weight if you follow the proper nutrition and exercise regimen.
Yes, and I love the way you're saying proper nutrition versus calorie restriction, because it's not all about calorie restriction. I know I do this. I do health coaching and I see people like this all the time. And there are a lot of factors in your body that can be imbalanced that are not going to be balanced by eating 100 calories a day. And they're not going to also be balanced by going and working out. So I understand now that the hypnotherapy is for a mindset shift, so that once you have that mindset shift, you're going to be more amenable to working towards the change that has to happen for you to be able to have whatever you see as your ideal body. And that doesn't mean that you have to be a size 00 also. So tell me about, there's this, you say that people learn to fail. What do you mean by we learn to fail? Because, I mean, this is America. We're success driven, aren't we?
Well, first of all, I think the word fail and failure gets a really bad rep. Who doesn't fail at some point? LeBron James fails. He loses, but that doesn't make him a failure or a loser. He gets out there and he learns how he can do better with that layup, that team, that court the next time. So if you're not failing, you're not even out there living. You haven't left your cave to go out there and explore life. That being said, embrace failure as your best teacher to grow. Then you know that that's a stepping stone to your success.
Okay. So I tell people their illness and injury are meant to be there for a challenge to force you to change. And are you going to change, or are you going to keep down that pathway? We're all on this soul journey. We're learning. We have lessons to learn in this school on earth, in this particular life, and your illnesses and injuries are the major way that the universe is saying to you, do something, change, do something, change. So now how does hypnotherapy help besides I've heard it for weight loss and smoking, of course, those are habits that people have picked up. How does it help change the physiology and the chemistry that's going on in the brain also?
It certainly can. Again, there's nothing more powerful than talk. It's going to give you great news. You just won the lottery. Don't you think the chemicals in your brain are going to be doing the dance? That is absolutely going to change your whole autonomic nervous system and your attitude.
I'm just going to interrupt for a second because Dr. Irwin having a little bit of trouble hearing you. And I'm going to chit-chat a little bit with Russell while we get you back on another line that's better, because we want to finish up the conversation. Russell, did you have a question there?
As a matter of fact, I did. Hi, Dr. Nancy. It's nice to talk to you.
You as well.
I'm just wondering about something here in my fevered little brain. Have you met, or are there people who you would refuse to hypnotize? I'm thinking of situations like, there's this phenomenon, I believe, of unmasking certain psychological symptoms that were not a problem before. Does that happen with hypnotherapy?
No, I've never had that. It is not dangerous. It's about as dangerous as having a massage. I suppose there are cases where you could massage someone and it would trigger some deep-seated memory and they would be out of control. I've never had that happen, but yes, there are certain people I would not treat. That would be somebody who's a violent schizophrenic. They would probably have difficulty finding the office and being, really attentive anyway. So no, that would not. There's some people who are incorrigible, and you cannot work with their brain chemistry. I certainly have worked with many people who are bipolar, and they're medicated, they follow their protocol, and they're very open to changing certain habits and behaviors, and that works beautifully.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
So besides for the habits like weight and smoking, what else? You mentioned for people who are bipolar. Expound a little bit more on that, because we think about people who are bipolar or depressed or other types of mental illness, that it's just a chemistry thing. We slap on the medicines. I know that's not totally the way it works. Actually, it's a lot more complicated than that. But this is what we know. Slap on the medicines. That's it. That's all you can do. If the medicines don't work, you're screwed. How does hypnotherapy play into this?
Well, first of all, a lot of people who are bipolar or have another mental disorder have a lot of shame around it. There's a stigma. Shouldn't be, but there is. So I help them work with that, to be at peace with the diagnosis, to understand that they didn't choose it, and any more than they chose to have, poor vision, and you correct it with the right, glasses. So it's the same thing with the mind. We all have some sort of deficit because none of us get through life unscathed. So I deal a lot with the shame and the stigma, a lot of time with the underlying rage and anger, and they have goals as well. They are working on relationship issues, professional goals, just like everyone else.
So is bipolar the condition that's most amenable to hypnotherapy, or are there other ones that people should know about that it's a consideration?
Oh, there are plenty of others. I work with a lot of people with depression to understand, and there's a book by this title. It's not my book, but it's a great book. It's called Depression is a Choice, and it's by A.B. Curtis, and it's all about using the power of your mind to focus on managing depression. You may be genetically disposed to have depression or anxiety or bipolar or be overweight, but that's only one component. We don't have to be a victim of our genes. Our genes, as you know, are a blueprint. But the blueprint is not the house. So you get to construct the house, maybe with a blueprint as a base, but you can make any change you want. Behavior is completely a choice. So yes, depression, all sorts of symptoms of anxiety, whether it's hair pulling or skin picking or being hyperverbal, which is just running on at the mouth. Fear of public speaking is a huge one. Social anxiety. Just garden flavor confidence. That's the number one thing people come in for. They want to be more confident.
And you are listening to Wellness for the Real World. I'm Dr. Veronica, medical doctor and medical intuitive. As you can see, this is really interesting and exciting stuff. So we're going to continue on. I want to shift a little bit. I would like to talk about neuro linguistic programming. It's something that I know about. Whenever I mention it to my clients, they're like, what? I spend a lot of time correcting their speech patterns to help them be successful, and explaining to them how your brain is wired, and what you say, there shall you go. Talk about neuro linguistic program. What exactly is it? I know a lot of people it's a very high level of training. It's not just as simple as, talk to talk and walk to walk. Neuro linguistic programming.
Okay. In a nutshell, and you can really oversimplify it, but neuro-linguistic is what it is. Neuro is the neural pathway in the brain that carries a message to some part of the body, and then linguistics is language. So the theory behind neuro-linguistic programming means you change your wording and you deliver a different message to your brain and hence through your body and behavior. And it is really, really fascinating because absolutely our words create our world. This is because the power of words is so crucial. First of all, words don't really exist. Language is a social construct. Human beings made up languages, millions of them, ever since caveman first said ooga, and it spread. Yet every word in every language represents some sort of visual. So whatever you say or read or hear turns into a little movie running in the mind's eye. Even what I'm saying right now, everyone listening is forming some sort of mental picture. So that picture is running through your head, or there's maybe 100,000 thoughts a day that are running through our head. That's a rough average of how many thoughts a human being has per day. That's a lot of pictures to be running through your head. So if you're focusing on what you don't want, for example, I'm a fat pig and I can't ever lose weight. Men don't like me. My life sucks. I can't get a better job. I'm too old. I'm too blah, blah, blah. I can't pass the bar exam. You are programming your brain to support that and manifest that. Because your brain, your subconscious mind, doesn't care if you're successful or you keep losing in life. It doesn't care if you're rejected or accepted. It doesn't care if you're a smoker or a non-smoker. It doesn't care if you're overweight or your ideal weight. The brain does not process a negative. So when you keep saying, I can't get a date, you won't get a date. What you want to do, I mean, just look at children. When you tell a kid what you don't want her to do, they can't understand that. They don't understand an inference. If you say, Susie, don't slam the door, what's Susie going to do?
Absolutely.
She's going to slam the door. Because the picture running through her head is wham, slamming a door. What you want to do, it sounds subtle, but it is profound. You want to say, honey, I need you to close the door gently. That's a whole different mental image. And again, this is happening about 100,000 times a day. The reason that, well, you can easily understand that the brain does not process a negative because look at the computer. As we all know, it was modeled after the human brain. You know you can't go into Google and program what you don't want. For instance, if you plug in a Google search engine, no pornography, what are you going to get? You can't get rid of it. You want to program Disney films, family movies. You never mention what you don't want because your mind cannot tell the difference. Fascinating, isn't it?
It's fascinating. I know this based on the law of attraction. There's certain laws of the universe. People may believe it or not believe it, but even if you don't believe it, it is still in effect. And that's what we're talking about with Neuro Linguistic programming. But what I'd like to know about Neuro Linguistic programming is there any science behind it? Here we are, you know, we all like to say, prove it, prove it, prove it, prove it. Now, I do energetic work that I can't prove. I can be 100% accurate, and I can't tell you how I know that, but I can tell you how I do it. I read your energy, but people don't understand it from the scientific perspective, so they believe that it doesn't exist. Neuro-linguistic program, is there some science that says this is how it works and this is why it works?
Absolutely, and it's from a very reputable source. Dr. Bruce Lipton, who is a cellular biologist, not an idiot, not a wacko cuckoo out there, woo-woo guy. No, he's brilliant. And he's got several books. The major one I would recommend to people that'll have all these statistics, and he explains fully how the power of words, which turn into beliefs, which turn into action, which turn into reality. He explains it on the cellular level. You can read his book. It's called The Biology of Belief.
Yep. One of my favorites.
Yeah. And it's all in there. Any question any of the skeptics want to know. And it's good to be skeptical. You want to know the truth. But it is absolutely scientific. It's epigenetics.
Yes. And let me just say a word about epigenetics. We talk about genetics and people think I inherited. My whole family's like that. I'm going to be this way because we now know that genetics, or what you came into life with, is about 15% of what happens. And you can turn on and off genes based on lifestyle choices. And the lifestyle choice is also the way you think. Now you're thinking, well, how do I change the way I think? But think about how you learn to think. If you think I'm a negative Nelly or whatever, a lot of times you learn that from somebody else. It might be a parent, it might be a relative, it might be just, we're watching. I think one of the reasons America today is so sick is because we're angry, and we all learn to be angry from watching all this negativity on TV. And I'm not talking about the violent films. I'm talking about the news, okay, that we watch 24/7 now. So yes. The biology of belief, Dr. Bruce Lipton, I recommend that very commonly to people, because I want to say, if you want to know how your stress, your fear, anger, and sadness, and what you say manifests into an illness, this is where you start. This is a book that is well received and received an award and many awards, The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. So Dr.
Absolutely.
Irwin, let's shift over. I want to find out about a few of the other things that you do, just because you're so interesting. This is Dr. Nancy Irwin that we're talking to on Wellness for the Real World. And timeline therapy. What is timeline therapy? This is something I haven't heard of.
Timeline therapy is great. I use this in hypnosis. It does not have to be done in trance, but it is a technique where you get to, how can I phrase this? It's easier to show. It's like riding a bike. I can show you more than and lead you through it rather than explain it. But you can drop down essentially into a defining moment. And it's usually something negative, a trauma, because our traumas, our negative events are our best teachers. So we usually make those events mean something about us, the world, life in general. It's usually something disempowering. So we want to clean that up and get the gift from that event, to learn from it, take the wisdom, and let the pain go. So you get unstuck, because trauma sort of freezes a memory and it can block the energy. So we sort of melt away the negative part of the memory. Again, take the gold from it, because there's always a lesson to learn no matter what you're going through. Take that wisdom, let the pain go, and then use that to offset any potential sequential events that may feed into that negative belief about the world. So you can know going forward, if a man rejects me again, I'm not going to make it mean something about me. I accept it and move on.
Interesting, because I am trained now by Dr. Brian Weiss and with past life regression therapy, and so you're talking about dropping into defining moments. I don't know if you're talking about this life or past lives or both, but it's something that, what is past life regression therapy all about? It's about seeing parts of our soul journey. And a lot of that soul journey, I can tell, I've seen in people. This is some of the, the crazy, interesting things. I can tell in people sometimes their illnesses and injuries or whatever problem they're having has been brought from a past life. And that's why they're having this problem. And this is why it can't be explained by a traditional doctor. It doesn't make sense. You'll go to your doctor and your doctor will say, doesn't make any sense. That's not anatomically possible even. And, once I had a gentleman sitting in front of me, and he was complaining about this foot pain, and it's right here, and he drew a line across his foot. And I said, I can see that you were a soldier in the Civil War, and you were trying to escape. Obviously, it's a war situation, and the enemy, they cut off your foot, your left foot, and with an axe, and this is why your pain goes that particular way. Now, what is the importance of knowing something like that? Now, I can see things like that. The gold standard, though, is not for me to see it and tell you, but for you to be able to see it. And this is what past life regression therapy and probably timeline therapy is. I can tell you stuff, and this is what a lot of people who are clairvoyants and psychics do. We tell you stuff, but the gold standard is you having the experience yourself, realizing what it means, and then I will tell you what happens to people. People say, well, why is this important when you tell people? All of a sudden, they begin to heal. Or maybe instantaneously, because they know what it's all about, and they don't need to hold on to it anymore. So go on.
And here's the deal about past life regression therapy. I certainly do it for those whose beliefs support that. It's not even important that their beliefs do support that. Many people are curious and they think, well, I don't know if I believe in reincarnation. I'm like, well, you don't have to. Because here's the deal, because none of us has died and come back, as far as we know, to prove that there is reincarnation, that there is an afterlife, that we do return many times. It doesn't even matter, because if you do the therapy and just be open-minded to it, and know that even if you are making it up with your right brain, your creativity, your imagination, or it is archived information from past lives, it doesn't matter. You can still unkink the wiring in your brain that has caused the pain or the block.
Yes, and that is an important part about it. It's not about changing your your spiritual beliefs or your religious beliefs.
Not at all.
Past life regression therapy is a type of hypnotherapy. I know that and understand that now. And also about hypnotherapy, we have only a couple more minutes left. No. People a lot of time feel that I'm not going to be hypnotized because I'm going to be out of control. Somebody's going to take control. Just let's dispel that right now. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I or any therapist cannot control another person. I can't control anyone unless I have a gun in my hand, and I ain't usually packing in the office. So someone comes to me because they want to change something in their life. I can facilitate it and show them how to make the change. But hypnotherapy, all therapy is about enhancing one's self-control. Because when somebody leaves my program and they're a non-smoker again, it ain't me. It's not my brain that's shifting. It's their mindset that was changing and their behavior. When they start losing the weight, that ain't me. That's them. I'm like a teacher facilitating the process. The student is the one that does all the work.
Got it. And so this is Dr. Nancy Irwin, drNancyIrwin.com. She works with people all over, has been on TV, radio. She's a celebrity and a beloved guest. I just want to encourage people to have an open mind. What Wellness for the Real World is about is finding out what are other ways that you can take control of your life and your health. And so we know about pills. We know about surgery. You got all the wonderful doctors with the degrees on the wall. Yet, guess what? You're still sick and you're getting more medicine piled on. So what does that mean? Albert Einstein said insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Are you going to continue to be insane? Dr. Nancy Irwin can take care of that. If you want to continue to be insane, we'll send you over there and give you some hypnotherapy so that you'll let go of that insanity. So I just want to thank you, Dr. Nancy Irwin, for being on Wellness for the Real World. I'm Dr. Veronica. You can find me at drveronica.com. I'm on social media on Facebook, Dr. Veronica Anderson. I'm on Twitter, Dr. Veronica IMDEYEMD. Yes, I used to be an eye surgeon, a clairvoyant eye surgeon at that. And this is Wellness for the Real World.
Thank you for listening to the Wellness Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more on how to bring wellness into your life, visit drveronica.com. See you all next week. Take care.